Good morning, YouTube. This is Johnny. About to make a video. I was thinking about making a video tonight. It is a Sunday morning here in West Michigan. It is 11:09. It is May the 12th. It's a Sunday. It is, from what I can gather, it's Mother's Day because this morning we were invited over to our oldest son's house down the street, over at Emily's and Caleb's. Josie Joy and little Coralie and Emily's parents were there. They're here. And we all had a breakfast, and the kids gave Mother's Day gifts. Before that, before we went to Caleb and Emily's, we went downtown to Rita's World Bookstore to get Sunday newspapers. And every time I go to Rita's World, I got to buy a book. I just have this thing, and I saw this book this morning, and I bought it. The Bookshop of the World, Making and Trading Books in the Dutch Golden Age, by Andrew Pettegree and author D. Weduwen. I can't pronounce it. So I got this book this morning. I've been looking at this, and I've seen it on BookTube. It says here, the untold story of how the Dutch conquered the European book market and became the world's greatest bibliophiles. When in 1656 Rembrandt was forced to declare bankruptcy, a full inventory was made of all his remaining possessions. Among the paintings, furniture, and household goods at the house on Breedstraat were only 22 books. It was a fitting mark of his near destitution, for at this point the Dutch Republic was a land teeming with books. Excuse me. While the Dutch found space for 3 million pictures on their walls, they produced perhaps as many as 300 million books. They traded at least 4 million books at auction and produced some of the most fabulous books of the age. So I got this. It was on my radar because I like reading about books and bookstores and making of books, and so I got this morning. So yeah, we went to Emily's and Caleb's, had a mother's breakfast with grandkids and Emily and Emily's parents, and came home, and Carol went to church. She's at Covenant PCA, and I'm sitting here in the dining room reading on Romans. I'm still in chapter 1 of Romans. I was looking at this morning on Romans 22 and 23 of chapter 1 of Romans. Professing to be wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like corruptible man, and birds and four-footed animals and creeping things. That reminds me of those verses that Paul says about the foolish. He says, it just came to my mind. He says in 1 Corinthians, he says, however, we speak wisdom among those who are mature, yet not the wisdom of this age, nor of the rulers of this age who are coming to nothing, but we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, the hidden wisdom which God ordained before the ages for our glory, which none of the rulers of this age knew, for had they known, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as is written, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him. But God has revealed them to us through his Spirit, for the Spirit searches all things, yea, the deep things of God. And then he says, he goes down here, he says, for what man knows the things of man except the spirit of the man which is in him? Even so, no one knows the things of God except the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, that we might know the things that we have seen been freely given to us by God. Therefore we speak not in words which man's wisdom teaches, but which the Holy Spirit teaches, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. But the natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, nor can he know them because they are spiritually discerned. So it says there in chapter 1 of Romans, verse 22, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. So I was reading that this morning, and I was looking at Romans chapter 1 through 8. On that verse, Romans 1:22, exchanging God's glory for idols. And when I was thinking about exchanging God's glory for idols, this book came to my mind, and I've been looking for it for a couple of days in our library. It says, We Become What We Worship, A Biblical Theology of Idolatry by J.K. Beale. And I wanted to look at this chapter. I read this book a couple of years ago. I think it came out in 2008. And Beale, J.K. Beale, has this chapter, Becoming Like What We Worship, Paul's view of idolatry in Romans 1. And so I was looking at that this morning. The Old Testament background of Romans 1, verses 25, verses 21 through 25. Yeah, if you read the Old Testament, that's one thing. The Old Testament people of God, the Israelites, were always worshiping idols and turning to false gods. You read that in the Ten Commandments, for example. You read in Exodus chapter 20 about when God gave the Ten Commandments. It says, and God spoke all these things, saying, I am the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourselves a carved image, nor any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation, and of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. That's the first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. And so idolatry is probably the major sin. Now today, you might say, well, we don't worship idols. I mean, we don't have graven images in our houses. We don't have, but yeah, if you worship anything besides God, you're worshiping false gods. I think he also says that, I think there in Ephesians, where Paul describes people before their conversion. He says, chapter 2 of Ephesians, and he made alive, who were dead in trespasses and sins, in which you once walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit who now works in the sons of disobedience, among whom also we all once conducted ourselves in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, just as the others. But God, who is rich in mercy, because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in trespasses, he made us alive together with Christ. So yeah, we were all walking in the ways of idolatry, all walking in the ways according to the course of this world. And but when you come to repentance and faith, you turn away from those false gods, idol worship. You turn away from the way of lawlessness, and you begin to walk in the way of obedience to God's law, to the law of Christ there in the New Testament. So I was thinking about that this morning. I got out and I was reading this commentary on Romans by Charles H. Talbert. One thing about me, when you have a big Christian library, you can get sidetracked, and I try not to do that. I try to not load myself in the mornings with tons of books, but I tend to do that. And I'm just going to show you the books I got out this morning, and I was going to take them downstairs because I was getting overloaded. What I'm trying to do is just read Romans 1 through 8 in the Reformation commentary, and just focus on that. Because if I read all these other books, I'll be in Romans chapter 1 into the end of this age. But here's a book I got out this morning, Sin, A History by Gary A. Anderson. I got this out to see if he had anything about idol worship, idolatry. And then I found next to this book, Sin, a history, I have Paul's letter to the Romans, a social rhetorical commentary by Weduwen III. So I could look at this, and then I found next to Ben Witherington, Contours of Pauline Theology, Radical New Survey of the Influences on Paul's Biblical Writings by Tom Holland. So I got to put these down on the lower level. I got this one too, The Human Condition, Anthropology and the Teachings of Jesus, Paul, and John by Udo Chanel. So you can always get sidetracked. Like this morning, I got out this book, We Become What We Worship, A Biblical Theology of Idolatry by J.K. Beale. So I got sidetracked. And then I was reading yesterday All Things New, Revelation is the Canonical Capstone by Brian J. Tabb. So then I got out this book, Hidden But Not Revealed, A Biblical Theology of Mystery by J.K. Beale and Benjamin L. Glad. He has a chapter in here, The Use of Mystery in the Revelation of Jesus Christ, the New Testament writings. And so you can look at how revelation, the idea of revelation, is used in the revelation of Jesus Christ. So, I can always get sidetracked. And what I got to do is just focus on just 2 books and not pull out 20 books. And then I get sidetracked because then I start writing in my diary. On May the 12th, 2019, I'm on page 422 for the year 2019. And then I got my new ESV study Bible, and I was looking at it on Romans chapter 1. So you get all these books, and then what you gonna do? You got all this stuff, and before you know it, it's noontime. It's time for lunch. It's time to relax. It's time to digest and to think about what you read all morning, to pray and to meditate and to contemplate. And then I got this book, another book, the Bookshop of the World, Making and Trading Books in the Dutch Golden Age. I got this book now to add to the to-be-read pile. And this week, my wife and I are going to celebrate our wedding anniversary by going to Grand Rapids, and I'm sure I'm going to buy a ton of books on this coming Friday. So it's just no end. So I need to slow down. I need to focus, not get sidetracked, and just read Romans chapter 1 and the Reformation commentary. So that's about it. Like I said, this is a Sunday afternoon. My wife will soon be home from church. We'll go through the afternoons. It's Mother's Day here in West Michigan. It is cold and gray. We were downtown Holland. Tulip time will be over officially tomorrow. I haven't taken any pictures of tulips. For many years, I used to go around Holland at this time of year and take pictures of tulips because it's so beautiful. But I don't know if there's a sunny day this week, a really pretty sunny day, I might go out and take pictures. If not, I don't know. So I hope you are having a good weekend, that you have a good new reading week. Thank you for the new subscribers. And yeah, I was going to make a video tonight. My wife works from 8 until midnight. The princess shift, she calls it. But I'll see. Maybe I'll show the books I've been reading in the afternoons this tonight. But I just want to show you my morning devotions, what I read in the mornings, and say Happy Mother's Day for all the mothers out there. And until next time, bye.